Previously on
Esteem,
Ballz.
right, we continue our New Zealand sweep today. And following our chat with John Mitchell just a short while ago, we have Sean Fitzpatrick standing by. I just actually figured out, if you want to become a top-notch TV analyst, you must be a player that people love to hate. Because look at it.
Campo.
Look at it. Look who's there. Campo's on the Super Sport panel now. He used to get under our skins all the time. Sean Fitzpatrick is now the star analyst there.
Well,
Sky.
I always love Sean.
Yeah. So, and he's on the line, Johnny.
Yeah, good.
Hey, Sean, how's it going?
Hey guys, very good, thank you.
That's the way to do it, right?
I thought you guys like me now.
We do, Sean.
No, we do. That's
Always
the thing.
liked you.
You got to get under our skins while you're a player, and then boom, straight onto a panel, get on TV, do the stuff everyone likes. Well, Nas was actually the same. I mean, everyone loved to hate him as well, except if you're a Bull supporter. And then he got on TV, and everyone liked him. So that's the way to do it. Yeah. How are things going over there?
Yeah, pretty good. We're sort of rising back into the rugby up here with the Premiership and Heineken Cup in a couple of weeks.
We've had
underway and off.
You there, Sean?
Yep.
Oh, okay, we got you. No, we just because we're getting a lot of interesting comments, obviously from Southern Hemisphere about just generally the thought of the standard of rugby in the championship. What is the talk up there in the Northern Hemisphere?
I think they're enjoying seeing Argentina in the championship. Obviously, Australia's been under a lot of pressure, and now South Africa. I think probably the underlying sort of discussion is how the All Blacks have taken the game to another level, and how they've moved on from the World Cup and sort of forgotten all about that, and the conveyor belt of talent continues to come out of New Zealand. I suppose that's the major talking points in terms of the Aaron Smith of the world, and those sort of players who weren't sort of around last year playing international rugby. And, you've got Julian Surveyor and Cruden and these players, Luke Romano. They just keep producing. So that's been sort of the real talking point.
Just on your Argentina, the comment about Argentina, we were talking about that a little earlier on, that they've now put to bed any discussion about whether they deserve to be there or not. You can, as I say, you can have one good day at the office, but they've had 3 pretty good ones on the trot, and they've certainly been more than competitive in this competition. Should have beaten Australia if they could just hold out in those last 10-15 minutes. Oh, have we reached the point here? I mean, this might have been the case with Scotland going back years ago, and some of the sides like Samoa, but have we reached a point where Argentina would play Australia in Argentina and start favourites?
Yeah, I think so. Well, you look at their last 2 performances against South Africa and against Australia, 2 games they, as you said, potentially should have won. And they're only going to get better down in terms of playing competitive international rugby, and that's been their problem in years gone by. They didn't have enough competition, and once they start getting their players back, and hopefully they'll start a professional competition in Argentina to get some of their homegrown boys playing rugby in Argentina rather than having to pick them from Europe and around the world. So they're only going to get better, and for you and I as rugby fans, it's great. It's great watching.
Having said that now, and before sort of we get used to this new relationship with the 4 Southern Hemisphere sides, should we not already be looking at, well, look how successful it's been with Argentina coming into this competition? Should the powers that be not already be looking at doing something with your Samoas, Fijis, Tongas, and once again the old South Sea Islander as a franchise, and trying to prepare them to enter them into this competition in years to come?
I think that's always been a point of discussion, hasn't it? It's been going on for years about Argentina. They're finally there. Who's next? But I think still that underlying problem is the year-round global competition. How do we make that work so players can play for their country and also compete in a provincial club competition? Because that's one of the problems that we have up here is releasing players to go back to the Southern Hemisphere at certain times of the year, and they're, in terms of their market value, being devalued because If you have an Argentinian player, he's going to disappear for 6 weeks of the championship. So, it's a matter of sorting that out. But yeah, I'd love to see a Fiji or a Samoa or Tonga. You just think back to 12 months ago, how those teams just lit up the world of rugby through their enthusiasm and their style of play, and we'd love to see more of that. I'm not, we're saying that we'd like to see that more on a consistent basis.
Well, what are your thoughts on the Springboks, and there's a lot of heat on the coach from the, as you now well know them, the very passionate Springbok supporters, and particularly on Morné Steyn and the kicking game. I think those are the three big things that they're having a full go at, even in this early stage of Heineke Meyer's tenure as coach. Just to give you a bit of background from what some of the other coaches are saying, and I wasn't in here, but Peter de Villiers was quite outspoken yesterday about the way the Springboks are playing. Jake White, however, today saying, Heineke, just put your head down and stick to what you believe and what and where you're heading to. What do you think?
I'm sort of in the Jake White camp. They don't become bad players overnight, and we know that. And the style of rugby that they're trying to play is probably the best style of play for South Africa. It's just the players aren't executing it in terms of the kicking game, in terms of their line speed, in terms of their set piece. You need a lot of things to go right to be able to execute a game plan, and you need to look back to last week. Their kicking game was bad in terms of the way they executed their kicking game, and also their set piece was average. And I'm sure the players will be looking back, and you look at the Crusaders, you look at the All Blacks or Australia or England or anyone. If you can't get your set piece right, it's very hard to execute your game plan, and for South Africa to lose, I think they lost 4 or 5 lineups on their own throw last week, which you wouldn't have heard of. The Matfields and the Backies Vapors of the world, they'd be very uncomfortable with that, I'm sure. So have a game plan, and the players need to execute it. And I'm not blowing the All Blacks trumpet here, but when you look at what they do, and the number of errors that they make in a game is so few, because the players are executing what they're told to do. They're experts in their positions, and there's a lot of emphasis put on the individual to make sure that he delivers on the day. And unfortunately at the moment, the South Africans, right through the team, they've got players that aren't executing what they're meant to be doing, what they've been picked for, and what they can do for their provinces, whether it's the kicking game, whether it's the line-out throwing, whether it's discipline in terms of not giving away penalties. I'm sure the coach is tearing his hair out, what hair he's got left, but it's, I think a lot of this, and we're forever, I think, having a go at the coaches, aren't we? As players, I think the players need to take a bit of responsibility in this too.
Yeah, look, Heineke's actually still got a full head of hair, but it's going a lot greyer very quickly.
You can see, when he got interviewed before the game, and you could see that he's under pressure.
Yeah, no,
and hopefully the players, have gone away. They've got a week off this week, and they've got 2 games to go, and they need to deliver. And we went through that same sort of pressure in 90, 92, 93 with Laurie Mains, in terms of trying to change the way that we played our game. We wanted to be the fittest and fastest team in the world, and we did things that we hadn't done before. And it took a number of players who were seasoned All Blacks. We lost probably half the team from 91 purely because the guys didn't want to do what he was trying to implement. And at the end of the day, it turned out to be the right thing for the All Blacks.
Simon?
Sean, in your opinion, does Heineke Meyer now change the composition of the side, bring in the likes of Goosen and Lambie, or does he persist with Morné Steyn and Zane Kirshner for the home tests?
Well, I think you've got to look at Goosen. I thought when he came on, he added a bit. He's played well in the Super 15. Lambie, we're talking about Lambie at 15, are you?
Yeah.
He's been injured, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's had very, very little game time. He came back, actually had a bit of a mare in the Super Rugby final, And I think he's had about another 20 minutes, if that, subsequent. So he hasn't had a lot of game time, which might be influencing. But I mean, he's got to get game time sometime. You can't just keep him on the bench for 80 minutes.
Yeah, yes, obviously Mornay Staines lacking confidence. You can see that in the way he's playing at the moment. So maybe it's time for them to say, look, Mornay, go back to provincial rugby or whatever, get yourself sorted out, and try and get a bit of confidence back. He hasn't played well for a while, so he's under pressure, and when the team's not performing well and not winning, it reflects on not just the coach, it also reflects on the players too. So yeah, maybe it's time for change, but you've got to be very careful. The guys that you bring in have got to be better, and you don't necessarily know that until they start playing Test rugby. And playing against the All Blacks and the Australians and the Argentinians, you're playing against some pretty good sides week in, week out, and you don't get the opportunity. Your space is a lot tighter, and if you've got any vulnerabilities, as we all know, and those annoying people that get under your skin, they're going to try and exploit that.
Just picking up it from a New Zealand point of view, an All Black point of view, as the world champions, and to have a guy like Cruden coming through, and you mentioned Smith as well. Does I think Steve Hansen sort of got it right now, and he's got some time to play with? And at which point do you suddenly go, okay, is Dan Carter going to make it in 4 years' time? Is he still going to be there, or do I start looking at putting my stall out on a Cruden Smith kind of combination?
I think he's. I'm a real fan, and the next game is the most important game, and you've got to win all your games. And the All Blacks, their vision and their goal is to play, to be the best team in the world and to win every game we play. And I don't think that's going to change. You can definitely see that that Cruden is learning, to have games one after the other. He's learning from those experiences, which is great. Bowden Barrett is sitting there. He's played really well, and he's been given an opportunity. But Carter's at the next level, and whether he's there in 2 years' time or 4 years' time, I think he's definitely got another World Cup in him. Okay. And the way that he looks after himself, and the beauty at the moment, Darren, is that the All Blacks have got depth in key positions. Probably the one position that we're still trying to find a replacement is for Richie. But in saying that, they can protect him, they can look after him, and I'd like to see both those guys go for another 2 or 3 years, because they're such an influence on the team. And the way Richie played on the weekend was just phenomenal. His leadership and commitment to the jersey is out of this world. And Cruden's only going to get better. So there's pressure on everyone. That's the beauty of the All Blacks, and it's a real luxury for Hansen and Co at the moment, is that the players that are coming in, we're not losing too much in terms of the quality of the performance.
Yeah. Where do you see the future in your old spot, number 2?
At the moment, we've got Mialamu and Hoare are just complementing each other so well. They're very comfortable at their position in the team. Whether they can go on for another 3 years, who knows? But I thought Mialamu, especially against Australia in that second test, played probably his best game of his career. So they're there. There's a few young kids knocking on the door. This guy out of Wellington, Dane Coles, is playing very well in the ITM Cup at the moment. So yeah, there's a number of kids around, but I'd see those two boys there for another couple of years.
Always lovely to chat rugby with you, Sean. Always nice to catch up with you as well. Simon's got a final one before we let you go. Just
a comment. Sad news in your part of the world, Sean. Nevin Spencer's funeral tomorrow. I see Johan Miller saying that he was a very, very talented player. I didn't know too much about him, but no. Tragic to hear of his passing. Yeah, very tragic, and for the whole family to lose a father and a husband and 2 sons. Is a real tragedy for the wife and the family, and our prayers and best wishes go out to them all. But yeah, just a tragic scene, and it's amazing. It's how the rugby world just comes together, isn't it? For these sort of things. But yeah, a very sad time for them up there.
Thanks for your time this afternoon again, Sean, and always nice to chat to you, as we say. And look after yourself and enjoy the rest of the championship.
Okay, guys.
Thank you, Sean.
Cheers, Sean. Bye-bye. Sean Fitzpatrick joining us on Ballz Visual Radio this afternoon from the UK, where he's an analyst on Sky.
always live on Ballz.co.za. Ballz.co.za.